So, I'm thinking. For this one, kind of want to talk about, I guess, like weird attack mechanics and stuff. This will be a little more video game focused, or at least video game inspired. So, I occasionally like thinking up homebrew shit. I'm a wannabe game designer at heart. That's what I am deep down. So I like to do that, engage in that, and get a little bit of that wherever I can. So in like a lot of action games and fighting games, there's a simple little concept that kind of ties most of those combat systems together, and that is the concept of a cancel. And that's a very broad term. There's lots of different ways for things to be a cancel or be cancelable, but all it means is you interrupt an action with another action. Usually or for the most of them, you're eliminating the recovery portion of an attack. And for those, if attacks are generally, even in action games and fighting games, though it's not usually scrutinized as much in like most action games, any given attack, when you hit the button to initiate the attack, there's a startup animation, which is when the character's winding up. There's an active period, usually called active frames because they're pretty short. And then after that, there's recovery. And there's other kind of aspects that go into it. There's how much hit stun and or block stun the attack inflicts on connection. There's something called hit stop, that's when you hit something with the attack. Both the attacker and the attackee will freeze with no animations. They'll just freeze in place for a few frames, and that's kind of built to drive home the impact of the attack, and it also improves cancelability windows for an on-hit situation. So, point is, startup, active, then recovery. And sometimes attacks will have variable recoveries. This is something that happens in Tekken a lot. There's a lot of attacks where, depending on exactly how the attack connected, you'll get a different recovery animation. Like, if the attack whiffs, the animation just plays normally. If the attack hits, the animation plays normally and whatever happens on hit happens. But if it hits an opponent's block, the character goes into a very specific, oh shit, my attack got blocked animation and is thrown off balance. So that's like one way to dramatically worsen how an attack is on block versus on hit or whiff. And those kind of those kinds of differences are really cool and are really flavorful and a great way to differentiate attacks. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about cancel windows. Usually, you're going to use any kind of cancel to effectively remove the recovery of an attack. That's what you want to do. And me, personally, the first attack in a game that I realized I could cancel was in Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Metroidvania game. I realized that when you land on the ground, you cancel anything you're doing. It just stops. Including your attack. So if you attack too low to the ground, your attack doesn't even come out. But there's a sweet spot, or a timing sweet spot, where you can perform your attack really low to the ground, and as soon as the attack comes out, as soon as the active frames happen, you hit a target, and then you hit the ground and your attack is over. So you completely eliminate your recovery for the attack, and you can do something else. You can dodge, you can attack again, you can jump away, whatever it is. And that's the essence of cancels. That's what they do. That's what they're for eliminating recovery, and they do a lot for different games. Certain games, they allow for combo systems to occur. Lots of 2D fighters, Marvel games, Street Fighter games, most Arc System Works games like Guilty Gear and BlazBlue, they have some kind of system where attacks cancel into each other, but there are usually rules. It's like each individual attack will usually have some broad rules, just like this attack is normal cancelable, meaning you can cancel it into a quote normal attack, your normal attack buttons. But they usually also have a stipulation: you can only cancel it into like a quote stronger attack, or an attack of like the same power level that you haven't used yet in this attack string. So like you can cancel light punch into medium kick into heavy punch, something like that. But you can't like go backwards or use the same attack twice. So it's like you can't do light punch, light kick, medium punch, light kick, heavy. Like you can't go backwards. Except for certain characters. There are certain situations or power-ups that can unlock reverse canceling, that kind of thing, but that's usually very specific or situational. But so for that kind of system, you unlock, it's kind of how the game is built. You're built to be able to do this, to get long combo strings. Then in other, usually things like more slower paced 3D games, you don't have the same kind of cancel windows. You can't like cancel whatever into an attack. The only thing you get sometimes in a game like Tekken or Soul Calibur, you get really specific strings. So in those, you're not really canceling. It's just you have this attack string. Like if you do, like in Tekken, you can do forward, you can do right punch, like forward, right punch, left punch for a string. Those three individual moves can only be, it's like a sequence of them. You can't do forward, right punch, then go back to neutral, and then hit right punch again, and then get that same kind of second right punch out. You'll just do your regular right punch jab. But that's not really a cancel window, because those kind of games, they're not built to have cancel windows. Sometimes you'll have something like, a super or some sort of other universal mechanic that you can cancel stuff into, but it's really rare. Now, why the fuck am I talking about this? So, I was thinking, I like to look at a mechanic from something and try to adapt it to like a TTRPG. How would that work? How would you implement cancels into something like 5e? Well, you probably can't cancel them implement them directly. Like the game doesn't work that way. You've only got a certain amount of time. But theoretically, you could be spending a resource, and it could work something like an action surge. You just gain extra actions, but that's kind of boring. Like, if you had something, you differentiated an attack on hit, an attack on miss, something like that, but a small little mechanic that comes to mind is letting you do stuff as a free action. In Ugliest Man Alive, for my character, he's got this custom Iaido feat stuff going on. One of the higher levels of this lets him sheath a weapon for free if he kills a target. That feels like a cancel to me. So maybe when you complete certain specific actions, you can do something as a free action, or you gain another attack, or you can do something as a bonus action depending on how you want to balance that individual thing. So it's not really a cancel, but to me it's kind of inspired by that, and it feels like that. And one of the main things that cancels do, I think, for a player, like as a player for the fun, is it lets a player feel like, one, they're more skillful, they're getting better at the game, because skill expression is a big point of discussion in most fighting games. You'll talk about how, like, combo expression and skill expression, a player doing something with a character, other players just kind of can't do. And that makes that player, like, it differentiates them. And, it's kind of bragging rights, but it's earned bragging. There's a lot of these types of things. There's, like, just really hard stuff to do. Like in Tekken, the character Brian Fury, he has this combo that everybody calls the taunt jet upper. Brian has a taunt in that game, which is an unblockable attack. But also in that game, taunts are fully cancelable at any time. So theoretically, if you use the taunt and it connects, because it's also a really slow attack, but it's unblockable, you could use this taunt, it connects, and then within one frame of it connecting, if you cancel into a move called Jet Upper, which is a very quick uppercut that he does, there is just enough time for that to connect as a combo. So actually, that's an example of a cancel in Tekken. I lied earlier. So something like that is possible, and that taunt jet upper has existed in Tekken for 25 years, and barely anybody can do it consistently. It is so difficult to do consistently, and also kind of not worth it, because you could just mix them up normally. If they're going to sit there and block, you just mix them the fuck up. You do a mid or a low, and you get a normal combo. Whereas taunt jet upper, the taunt is like slow to come out, it's all this, but it's like, if you can get your opponent to sit still and you do this, fuck, man. You win a tournament with this, people are going to remember it for years. And that's kind of what that is about. But to me, that's what cancels kind of do. Because when I learned how to do that cancel in Symphony of the Night, it felt like, oh, I'm like getting a leg up on this game. I'm cheating in a fair way, because it's the only reason I'm, quote, more powerful than the regular version of this character is that I figured this specific thing out. People love figuring shit out and getting rewarded for it. That's like intrinsic to the human condition, and it's intrinsic to fighting game players and action game players. That's how this works. It's a little harder to do in something like D&D, but the idea of rewarding specific circumstances with additional actions is the way I see this kind of concept going. So I think there's lots of ways to make that work, but this is just like a base discussion. That's all I got for you today. That's all I have for you today. Enunciate.